Well, friends, do you know that sometimes you tighten the rope around your own neck? Very often our problems, which seem like problems, depend solely on our perception of life. We very often write ourselves off. We very often try to create problems in our lives and don't understand how to find a solution. But sometimes the solution is right on the surface. And to find the solution, you just need to do one small thing. You need to ask the universe how it would solve a particular problem. I assure you that the solution will be found very easily, because very often the problems that seem like problems to us are merely a kind of test. If you feel like you already need to jump into the noose, believe me, it's just a certain test for you. And there is no noose. There is a saying, to whom much is given, much will be required. Remember it once and for all. There are empty people for whom absolutely nothing shines in this life and on whom the universe, well, excuse the expression, just gives up. And there are people who are overflowing with strength and energy. And for such people, the universe often really puts spokes in their wheels, not to hinder, but to test. If you feel these kinds of obstacles, rejoice, because essentially it's just a certain marathon, a marathon of tests that the universe wants you to go through. If you give up, if you throw in the towel, I assure you, the universe will not be pleased. The saddest part is that many people do not understand this and truly want to believe that everything is bad. But not everything is bad. Very often, just believe that everything you receive from the universe is a kind of test and nothing more. As soon as you start to believe this, as soon as you begin to understand that this is the case, believe me, your whole life will change. And the rope will not be for any bad purposes, but for some interesting adventure, rescue, or something else. In any case, you must always understand for yourself that any test, any difficulty, any obstacle was predetermined from above. And your task is simply to stop, look around, and think about how you would solve this problem. Rely on the experience of past generations on how others would solve that problem. In any case, the universe is always testing you, always, without exceptions. Remember, to whom much is given, much will be required. Remember this, and use it every time you encounter any problems. Don't try to think that you are some kind of a punching bag. No. If something falls on you, it means you are meant to go through it. The question is, will you feel like a winner or a loser afterward? I want you to always remain a winner. I want you to always come out of any trouble as a winner. I want you to always solve any problem the way a smart person would. What is needed for this? Firstly, for this, we will still need a bit of esotericism. Where would we be without it? In fact, esotericism is needed in almost all aspects of our lives. And when some misfortune occurs, a person should stop and talk to the universe. But talking to the universe is not that simple. The thing is, the universe doesn't know our language because there are so many forms of life that all communicate with the universe. And for the universe, it doesn't matter at all what language we speak to it in. It doesn't understand it. It only understands images. We can send images. Just like, in principle, all other forms of life. It sends only images in the form of signals. So, by knowing how to ask the universe, by knowing how to pose a question to it, you will be able to receive an answer. The answer could be in the form of images, or as some kind of event, or in the ideal case, as a solution to the problem you are asking about. I have a great course called Visualization. And the second course I would recommend is Launching Desires. These are two powerful courses that help you understand how to work, how the mechanisms of information transmission operate. We all know how internet protocols work, how packets are sent, how sometimes you need to press a button a couple of times if something doesn't send, but we absolutely do not understand how to launch an image to our creator, how we can ask him. But friends, this is probably much more important than sending a photo on Instagram or TikTok. And I believe that this is something we need to learn. I really want my words to become some kind of calling for further development of this, like a form of education. Yes, I teach this in very narrow circles, and I would really like to teach this to children, because if children take this, so to speak, with their mother's milk, or at an early age, they will be able to apply it automatically. You know, there is such a concept that you can immediately tell when a violinist, well, a person who plays the violin started playing at 4 years old or at 5, 6 years old. That 1 year is crucial. And the same can be applied to esoteric techniques. If a child knows all these techniques from an early age, they will apply them so precisely, so clearly, so consciously that they won't even consider them as some kind of esotericism. They will consider them as ordinary everyday matters, like hearing, speaking, seeing. For them, communication in images and sending a signal or help to the absolute or receiving information from the absolute will be completely normal. Therefore, I recommend don't start too late. First of all, esotericism is not something frightening. It's not black magic, where you can catch anything and then suffer for a lifetime. Esotericism is a very loyal science or even a loyal lifestyle, and work with energies, which in principle can only protect you, shield you from certain problems, but in no way bring problems into your life. The earlier you start, the more time you have to work through and bring certain techniques to the necessary level. You can ask my students, who have been taking many courses, that it is very important indeed to work with energies, work with the field, work with visualization. These are crucial aspects, without which, unfortunately, you won't be able to move forward. And as soon as you start to understand this, not with your head, but let's say with your entire body, you will begin to understand with your whole being. That's when it will become as natural to you as breathing. You never think about when you need to inhale or when you need to exhale. It somehow works on its own, regardless of us. And in the same way, I recommend that your esoteric techniques work for you. Friends, this rope was purely symbolic to show that not only problems can corner us, and to show that any problem is just a certain kind of test. You know what? If you perceive life as a kind of sports field where you can train certain skills, certain techniques, firstly, life will become more interesting for you. You will wake up every morning not fearing that something might happen, but on the contrary, wanting something to happen so you can test yourself. Not thinking, oh my God, I hope nothing happens today, no changes. You know, we are so afraid of changes that it often destroys our first chakra, just the fear that something might change. It makes Our brains petrify. We need to evolve every past day. We need to think about something new. Every day you should be solving some problems. Then any problem will become just an ordinary task for you, which you will solve in no time. Friends, I recommend you pay attention to this video. I recommend you listen to it again because there is a lot hidden between the lines. Show this video to your children. I want you to get feedback from them. I want them to tell you what they feel, whether they want to engage in it, be passionate about it if they are drawn to it. And in any case, I am always ready to answer all your questions. My comment section is always open. I don't have any bots writing comments. Everything you see there is all honest comments. Well, naturally, we block for rudeness, but we are always happy to hear from you about everything else. So write, express your thoughts, and see you soon. This was your teacher,
Ernst Veter.